is connected. So today I'm not starting with a quote, but with one of the mantras of Deutsche Telekom. And I would like to welcome you to our talk show part 2. My name is Andreas, and once again I have here with me Anna and Richard. Welcome. And we would like to discuss on company culture, in particular the aspects of mental health. Hello and welcome you back again. Perhaps you can introduce yourself to our viewers. For the viewers which have not seen the first part, the link is down here. Anna.
Welcome everybody. Andreas, thank you for having us again. My name is Anna Broda and I'm an HR business partner for Global Delivery Centers, and I'm also Senior Vice President of HR working for T-Systems International for over 19 years. So I'm happy to be here today with you guys because the topic of mental health is of utmost importance for me and for the company, because it helps us with employee engagement, with productivity, and just makes everybody better, feel better.
Yeah. So also warm welcome from my side. My name is Richard Bacho. I'm the Global Talent Hub broker and also an internal headhunter, and I'm acting as a business coach and mentor. And in the time which is left, I'm also doing a facilitation of Journey to Mindfulness. And it's amazing to be again here, because if something is good, then you should repeat it. So let's continue.
Very nice. Which also leads me to outlining the agenda now, right? As usual, what's on the menu? We would like to discuss hybrid working and technology, and we will touch the topic of talent and retention in the context of mental health. I would like to touch now the topic of new working models, which is very close to my heart. And at Deutsche Telekom, at T-Solutions Slovakia, we are currently running a program we call Reconnect. Yeah? And it's not reconnect to the office, it's reconnect with the people. And our ambition is to increase the utilization of our office space, but that's only the numbers behind it, how to measure. In reality, it's about strengthening employee experience and raise togetherness and belonging. The topic is very important to me, as I just mentioned, and I would like to highlight 3 findings from the last 12 months, which made us realize that there is a need for change. And the first thing is that we consider personal contact as irreplaceable, in particular during the onboarding of new joiners, but also for mentoring juniors and coaching of talents. Second, we also recognize that we lost the possibility of spontaneous recognition and informal communication. And as such, we are worried that might lead to a decrease in employee engagement. And last but not least, less in-person contact results in having fewer friends at work. And this is something where originally we were very, very strong at Deutsche Telekom IT Solutions Slovakia. And not having that makes it easier for people to quit their jobs. Well, I would like to start with a question to Anna now, discussing the topic. So working from home, hybrid or remote, there are so many different names for these models. Yeah. How do these new working models impact mental health?
It's a very interesting and intriguing question, Andreas, because definitely new ways of working brought a lot of new dynamic into the workplace. And there is always a bright side to it, and there is always a dark side to it, like to everything, right? And I think we so eagerly jump on the new way of working without knowing what impact it might bring. And now, in retrospect of as we go, we can see that there are quite some risk factors, especially for mental health. One of them is that while working from home or totally remotely, some people might find it difficult to put a clear demarcation line between work and their personal lives, right? The line is getting very blurred. It often leads to workload, increasing workload, overload, inability to check in and check out. Home used to be our asylum. Right now, it is both work and a place of relaxation. And not everybody is able to cope with it. So we really need to be prepared as an employer. And I think we are, through our different trainings, to enable our people and also managers and leaders to respect private life and also working hours, right? And stop expecting people to be always on. On top of it, the entire technological overload and huge digital spectrum of platforms, communicators, constant pops up on your phone, right? With people asking you questions that really brings a lot of stress and often leads to digital fatigue, but also in the extreme cases to new addictions related to technology and digital tools. The aspect which you brought, which is very important for me, it's the social aspect and the lack of social interaction, right? In the old traditional office setting, we could spontaneously reach out to a colleague to discuss a topic. And this feeling of belonging and camaraderie also acted as a buffer for workplace stress. So we lost this spontaneous interaction. And I will always be a proponent and advocate of a personal interaction because we are just wired to be in connection and in touch with one another. And lastly, in very extreme cases, working only from home bring a feeling of loneliness, which is very often masked by hyperconnection, right?
Yeah.
And a feeling of isolation. And we saw those cases, Andreas, when we really had people being very fearful to coming back not only to work, but also to society, right? But on a positive note, new way of working brings also a lot of positivity into mental health and well-being of the employees. It brings a lot of flexibility and convenience for working parents, right? For people who are looking after senior citizens, right? It enables you to have more proper work-life balance and work-life integration, right? It's not anymore 8 hours, 9 to 5. It's 4 hours. It's less commuting during rush hours and not being so upset because you got stuck in a traffic jam. So there is good in both, right? And we need to bring the right practices and education to our employees and also managers, how to properly balance these two worlds and how to take best from both.
I like it. Very true. I mentioned also as one of our findings that it is in particular important to onboard in person, face to face, right? And we went through a period where that was not possible. During pandemic, we hired people and we onboarded them completely remotely. So I would say we have some experience with that, not so good experience, I would say. So Richard, how do you see that? How important is mentoring and coaching in the context of mental health? Again, in the context of the hybrid world, yeah? Is it a risk? Is it a chance? How do you see that?
Yep. So especially when we are thinking about knowledge workers, I think that having the possibility of mentoring and coaching is super important. And if it can be face-to-face, then the quality of it and the impact is even higher. And I can speak from my own experience. So as a talent worker, I have executive-ready talents all over of the locations of Deutsche Telekom, and it's not easy to meet them. But when I met them, then our overall relationship was boosted to another level. So you can then really feel that the trust is on a different level. And it's super important for leaders, I think, to also be able to see someone in the context of how they are looking, how they breathe, what are their mimics. And if you are able to shake hands and really to touch them, maybe also unconsciously, you have a lot of other energy sensors and information which brings the whole picture. It's not so flat like only reading an email from someone. And unfortunately, during the COVID times, I also was hiring leaders and it must be super difficult for them because they are not able to meet their teams. So also, it's not only that if you are as a person a newcomer, but also when you are changing the job. So it might be super difficult. And I think that what we can do is to help us as employees and employer to train us how we can overcome and benefit from the virtual space, and how to make it more connected, because it's possible. So, and in terms of coaching, I would say, and especially thinking on mental health, I think that the virtual space is giving also a huge benefit, especially if you want to be treated from maybe a therapist or a psychologist.
True.
Then it's usually considered that something is bad or broken when you go to the physically to meet the therapist or the psychologist. But the virtual space is enabling you to do it from a safe space from home, and whenever you find time for it.
That's a good point. And at the same time, I think it's also difficult to read the body language. At least that's always my problem or my challenge in solely virtual conferences.
Yeah.
Okay. You also mentioned hiring leaders globally in remote sessions, right? And that brings me to the point that we have, as a global company, obviously a global leadership model. And the question I would like to raise here is these virtual responsibility metrics that your leader sits somewhere and the team is there and somebody is there and so on. Results perhaps in being a little bit more out of touch. And my question would be, can it result also into people don't feel that they belong anywhere, and as such then again has an impact on mental health? Anna, what's your view on that, please?
Especially under those circumstances which you, Andreas, brought, and also these are the outcomes of our employee surveys, right? The sense of belongingness is very important to people and to our employees, not only in the aspect of mental health, right? In many aspects, but definitely the sense and the feeling of belonging brings people closer. First of all, they feel more valued and more supportive, and they are just generally more motivated to do the job and work as a team. And there is research that definitely shows that strong sense of belonging is really associated with lower levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. On the contrary, lack of belonging, so isolation and loneliness, definitely impacts your mental health in a very, very negative way. So fostering belonging and working on belonging is definitely part of positive work environment. And the pivotal role is, as you mentioned, leaders, how we do that, how we allow them to do it, and how we support them. First of all, we definitely need to enable them with tools and training, how to work virtually, but also how to work on site. Because our business model, although in one location everybody might be in one office, we very often work cross-border. And even if they sit in their office, they are remote to us. So we need to give leaders platforms and means of communication to communicate with the teams effectively when part of them is on-site and part of them is off-site. Creating feeling of belonging is also connect to people on a very regular basis, not just for a business discussion, but on for any discussion. And Richard mentioned emotions. It's just simple questions. So how are you doing? How are you feeling? Tell me, Andreas, right? And it helps you connect to this particular employee and to a teammate and bring them closer together. So I think digitization helps us to facilitate working cross-border and in different settings. But I think leaders more and more in the daily job need to focus on people, belonging, understanding them, and emotions, like Richard said.
Okay. And because you were asking, I'm feeling good, right? Because we have so insightful discussions. I really enjoy them. I would like to switch now to technology. And I had a discussion with our Agile Center of Excellence some time ago, a couple of months ago, and I was complaining that we have so many different tools, for all of these Agile boards, and the same goes from my point of view for so many different tools for communication. We have the Cisco-based ones, the Microsoft-based ones, and some others as well. Well, the team was listening to me, and then they told me, Andreas, it is what it is. This tool is better for that, and this tool is better for that. But still, sometimes it puts a little bit of stress on myself. Well, Richard, I would like to ask you now, technology may increase mental overload and as such negatively impact the ability to focus, to be creative, to learn, but then also actually achieving a countermeasure, which means you don't have social interactions. So what's your view on that?
So I think that technology is super helpful. First of all, it's an amazing tool, which why not to use it also for our benefits, also for mental health. And we can see that with the help of technology, we can be more effective also in treating mental health issues. And also locally, our innovation team locally was able to help to treat the effects of diseases by virtual reality and help them to recover faster, which is actually a very nice example how technology can help. On the other hand, it's super important to be conscious about how much time do we spend with technology, because you might feel that you are in contact with people because you are reading the messages about what they are posting on the social media, but these kind of relationships are not real. You are not really connected, and especially one of our main goals is we won't stop until everybody is connected, but it's not about having the potential to be connected or that I can call you or I can reach you via internet. It's more about if I feel connected. And one super important state of mind for me is to allow myself to be offline, to not when I'm sleeping, because then I'm unconscious and I don't really care if it's if the internet or the Wi-Fi in the room is still ongoing, but to give my mind the possibility to just be and not to be active, not to be doing something, because those special moments are super important in order to help you to remember who you are and what you want. And also it helps to calm down, to recharge the batteries. And when we have been speaking about what you can proactively do, then these are exactly the tools which you might implement also in your business time to have then more energy and to be more effective and to train the ability to focus when you need it. And I think that technology is one of the things where receiving notifications on your smartwatch or on your smartphone and whenever you are is drastically decreasing your ability to focus because you are being interrupted. And if I'm looking into the calendars of my talents, it's super challenging to find 1 hour of discussion with them once a month.
Wow.
Once a month. Then if you are considering knowledge workers work and working with the mind, usually you would expect that you need more than 1 hour to concentrate on something to really bring value. But if you are not able in 1 month to organize 1 hour for yourself, when this quality should arise?
Very true. And just thinking and reflecting a little bit, I know from my own experience, if I put my phone away and I play a little bit with my kids and then later on I check the phone, then most of the times nothing happens. So we probably overdo it a little bit as well. Yeah. So this hour should be possible. Very good point.
And I think if I may add, Andreas, I absolutely subscribe. And I think for me, the choice is very simple. We can work with technology and use technology very well, but there is for me one important prerequisite. If you have an option of a physical personal meeting, and using technology, prioritize personal meeting, because then in the digital reality, it's going to be easier to connect. It is, guys, very simple. It is just so bodily. When we connect, when we see one another, the oxytocin level is going up. And oxytocin is a hormone that helps you to bond, to connect, and to build relationships. Study and research shows that oxytocin levels are lower when we use digital platforms to connect. So we have to cultivate personal meetings and cultivate a culture of personal connections.
I do that, by the way, even if sometimes people rather prefer not to meet me face to face. But if I find out we are at the office at the same time, I always ask to meet face to face. Yeah, that's sometimes very helpful. Let's go a little bit back to the culture aspect. Now we were talking a lot about the way of working and also about IT technology. Well, it's obvious that a positive culture that values empathy, respect, and support can create a psychologically safe environment where employees, colleagues feel comfortable and can discuss if they want. Important thing is if they want mental health concerns. So that's what we also call a safe place. Mm-hmm. And Anna, how important is such kind of safe place, and how can we create that safe place in addition?
Safe place and psychological safety as a concept, in respect for, or is it about mental health or not, is really, really very important, because it fosters positive company culture. And we can achieve it and we can get there by tackling a few topics, right? The first one is communication. How we communicate. Do we communicate transparently? Do we discuss difficult topics with employees, not even mental health topics? Because if you prepare a ground for a discussion, then people are more prone to open up to you as a manager, as a leader, if they have mental health issues. It's also about what platforms you use for communication. We just discussed it in this communication jungle. I think we need to really focus on the clear ways and channels of communication towards our employees. So transparency and trust is very important, because if we don't communicate properly and we leave people hanging there, it brings a lot of anxiety, especially in the change process. It's super important. I cannot stress more the importance of education as one of the preventive measures. And education is a very broad topic, but I think we have to focus on educating ourselves and our employees and leaders how to cope with stress, because stress is one of the biggest factors of mental health. Second of all, we need to educate them what are the signs of mental health deterioration in me or in others, right, in order to help them later on. But also what is very important is to educate ourselves that we are emotional creatures. Our emotions are signposts of something. And I think, Andreas, we do it very well in our NOVA program, right? When we educate our talents and leaders how to be emotionally agile and how important it is to feel and to act upon it in the right manner. But we also need to educate them around stigmas, right? About demystifying mental health, how to fight the stereotypes. The other aspect is leadership itself. I think we need to cultivate the culture of leading with empathy, compassion, and active listening. If we don't actively listen to ourselves first and to our employees, we will not be able to help them. And also a great role of leader here is to practice vulnerability. So again, demystifying that as a leader, I'm a superhero. I'm just a regular human being. I have thoughts, I can feelings, and I can feel bad. Very often on my team, when we start our meetings, I openly say, hey guys, today it's not my best day. My daughter is sick, so I'm a little bit overwhelmed. I'm just like anybody else. I have no special magical forces. I'm not a superhero. And of course, fostering also culture of belonging, which we just discussed. And last but not least, also build structures and build employee assistance programs. So when it really comes to severe mental health issues, they have a safe space to go, to call, and without any judgment and repercussion, they can seek help and support.
Yep. So there I have the feeling that I have to add something. So let me do it. And I think especially when you mentioned education and then the leaders as a focus group, I'm very happy that in Telecom we are offering to all employees the Search Inside Yourself program, where you can really educate yourself how to be more mindful in work and how to be emotional and in a correct way or acceptable way, and also how to be a compassionate, also as a leader, but also as an employee. And especially when targeting the leaders, we are offering as Deutsche Telekom 3 modules for them, which are happening virtually. And they are called Journey to Mindfulness. And it's especially dedicated to the executive level of leaders, and they can order it for their teams. So how to really put the mindfulness inside of the team relationship, and how to foster the cooperation and put it up front. And I'm very happy that we are cooperating together with SAP, which are the front runners. And just to mention, since 2019, then have a special role, which is called Chief Mindfulness Officer. So thumbs up.
Wow, Chief Mindful Officer. Well, we definitely discussed now a lot how leaders can also contribute to such kind of safe place. And maybe then to close the loop, let's talk a little bit about talent attraction and retention. So, Richard, how important is dealing with mental health as a tool for talent management? Maybe first talent attraction, then talent management, and ultimately retention.
Yep. So one of the most important exercises when you are in a company is to have the best possible resources. If you are, as a metaphor, if you want to bake a perfect cake, you not only need a perfect recipe, but also perfect ingredients. And in this case, I think that mental health is really helping us to combine both, from existing people to allow them to be the best selves, and also to give them the chance to unlock their talents and unlock their strengths and to use them, not only in the company space, but also for their personal lives. Because when you find out that this is my strength, then you can use it everywhere. And also it can be then used automatically for talent attraction. Because if we are able to become famous, that we are focusing on the mindfulness, we are focusing on mental health, then this can be really a game changer on the market.
Thank you very much. So that brings us now to an end of the session. We have been talking about mental health, in particular about the workplace as a major contributor, technology, and the impact on talents and retention. A company culture is closely connected to mental health. A positive company culture can create a physically safe environment. We discussed about safe place where employees feel comfortable to discuss mental health concerns and seek help in case they need. Last but not least, we were touching leadership and management style within a company, which certainly significantly influence employee mental health. So we hope there was something interesting in it for you. And in case you want to do us a follow-up on some of the topics in greater detail or on any other topics, please let us know and comment below. I would like to thank Anna and Richard for joining us today and sharing very valuable insights with us. We wish you all the best, and perhaps we can see you again for another session. Thank you very much. Stay healthy. Goodbye.
Thank you. Mindful regards.
Thank you. Stay happy and healthy.
Thanks. Goodbye.